One of the things about Zeppelin that really sticks out to me is the fact that, like you're saying, all four guys in the band really kind of collaborated. And I think the unique thing about three is that's when, like the first two records, it was kind of the Jimmy show, and that was a good thing. But the three onwards is when it
Yep.
really becomes the band, you know? You were there for the mixing and mastering, you weren't there for the recording, so I'm not sure if you would be able to answer to this, to speak to this, but do you know what the creative chemistry was like between the four members? Like if they all had equal say or if Jimmy was kind of dominating? Like what was the relationship creatively between the four of them?
And that always reminds me of a story Jimmy told me, and I think he's told it publicly several times. But just the day they all got together and they started, let's just go jam, let's practice and see if this works. He said, like halfway through, the very first thing they all played, they all just, without stopping playing, just still going, but all of them looked at each other at once and just started laughing, just saying, damn, check this out. And this is it. We're not changing a thing. So I think it just grew and grew and grew. The other two guys, meaning Bonzo and Robert, just grew more confident as things went along. John Paul and Jimmy grew more uh, infectious to the rest of them as things went along.
Hmm. One of the things about Zeppelin is I feel like, Bonham, Page, Plant, they get the recognition they deserve, but I feel like John Paul Jones often gets really skipped over. In your view, what was the importance of John Paul Jones in the band, in your opinion?
Well, you have to remember Jimmy had been one of the top session guitarists before, even before the Yardbirds. John Paul Jones was one of the top keyboardists and arrangers, writing charts, bringing in orchestras, doing string parts for people like Donovan and lots of other people. So he was already known as a musician's musician, a top guy on the British music scene. So getting him into the band to add that incredible musicality, really, many rock bands, if they needed a bass player or a keyboard player, which he was both extraordinaire, they would just try out a few guys. Oh, this guy plays good. Get him in there. He'll play the keyboards. That wasn't John Paul Jones. He could do anything musically. So I think he, as you said, of course, Bonham is bombastic, and you always hear him banging away.
Hmm.
So you think, wow, great drums. Jimmy's the lead guitarist, so you hear him wailing away,
Hmm.
and then Robert, of course, is the lead singer.
Yeah.
They're all out front, like you say, but kind of like an umbrella over the whole thing musically, not necessarily production, but musically of capability was John Paul. I mean, he's just like an incredible shield. It's hard to describe it.
Yeah, no,
He
I know
was
what you're
just
saying.
emanating
Yeah.
musicality, and anything that was needed, he could do it in any number of instruments. Um, so to have him, let's say Kashmir, what would that be without his parts?
Hmm.
Good Lord, wouldn't have, and the organ on Since I've Been Loving You, it's just brilliant. If anybody could have outplayed Booker T or Keith Emerson at that point, it was John Paul
Hmm.
Jones. I mean, but he didn't stick to that. He played bass too. And if you may have heard some of his isolated bass tracks, people have these files on out, which I don't like to hear, but
Hmm.
they're out on the internet now. His bass playing is immaculate. It's brilliant. It's like he's like Jamerson almost in some ways, where the bass drives the song. On several of the songs, the bass drives the song. If you listen to Motown music, almost any Motown song with Jamerson on it, which is almost all of them, most of them, a good many of them anyway. Bob Babbitt too, sorry, but if you listen to a Motown song, a Four Top song or something, where the bass is driving it, and just concentrate on the bass, it will amaze you, absolutely amaze you at the melody that bass plays, at the way that takes the song from one section to another. It's just something that a great bass player could do, and there aren't that many of them that can do that. But John Paul Jones could do that and did it. It's a form of brilliance that's so rare, and that's why I like to say ad nauseum, perhaps, four greatest people in the world at what they did, all in one room, all playing in one band together. Astounding.
If you had to, I mean, this might be a hard question, but if you had to pick one song that was very John Paul Jones heavy and say this is the best one, which would you pick?
Oh, that's not fair. That's very tough.
It is what it
It's
is.
like, well, you've got four kids. Which one do you love the most?
Oh.
So, and sometimes you could make that answer, but uh, certainly which one you love the least, you might.
Hmm.
But uh, I I don't know. Geez,
Yeah, that's cool.
all of his where he does the string parts, whether it's mellotron or whether it's synthesizer or just whatever. But how about this? Might sound crazy in
Hmm.
a way, but how about the electric piano on rock and roll? My
Oh, that's
God.
cool. Okay. That's
I mean,
cool.
most people wouldn't
Hmm.
pick that maybe, but if you just again isolate and think of what the piano is doing on rock and roll, it's like Little Richard on steroids, but in this
Hmm.
brilliant professorial way.
Yeah, no, I
So
totally know
many
what you're
things
saying.
are.
So what do you think of No Quarter?
Listen to the rhythmic parts of the things he plays on that. It's just amazing. No band has ever rhythmically done what they've done.
Hmm.
There are all sorts of things where people do odd time signatures. We're going to do this in 7/4 or whatever. That's not what they're doing. They're in a many times in a standard key signature and doing so many syncopated things off of it that it's just amazing. The things Bonham could do relative to John Paul Jones, just insane. Anyway, I'll
Yeah.
just go on forever.